Well, hello friends, Coach Bob with you today, and today have I got a great video for you. I get this question a lot. Why the CanAm Spyder? Coach, you know, you can have anything you want. Why would you buy the Spyder? You know, it's an excellent question. And you know, Coach Vic doesn't ride with me anymore. I mean, she does every now and then, but it's very seldom. So why would I keep a Spyder? Why do I want a Spyder in my garage? And as I've said many times, and this was long before I was a BRP ambassador, I will always have a Spyder in my garage. So let's talk about the reverse trike, this CanAm Spyder versus the Harley Tri-Glide, the traditional three-wheeled motorcycle. Which way should you go, and why did I go the way I did? And is Harley better than CanAm, or is CanAm better than Harley? We're going to talk about all that right after you do me a favor. You give this video a big old fat thumbs up, because a regular one won't do. I want a big old gravy-ridden, big fat thumbs up, followed by a comment on your comment, and then comment again. Then start yakking, because you matter. I want to hear what you have to say. All right, so in light of knowing that I can have any motorcycle I want, and yet I continue to ride CanAm Spyders, here we go. Well, the very first thing I want you to know, I did not want a three-wheeled motorcycle, generally speaking, but I knew that whenever I got one, it was going to have to ride well. And what I mean by that is I've ridden trikes a lot in my lifetime. You know, Coach Vic actually used to have a trike. It was a Honda 900 Ace edition. That's the American Classic edition, if I'm not mistaken. And it was rigged up, you know, so we had the thumb shift, just like a Spyder. This was way back pre-Spyder days, and I mean pre-made, before they were made. And so we had set it up nicely, but there were problems with it. I did not like the braking, although I had linked the braking, just like a Spyder's braking is linked. And it did okay. It did okay, but it had the problems that all traditional trikes have, and we're going to talk about that. Well, when we started buying, we had decided we were going to cross the country, and Coach Vic was like, I'm only going to go if it's on three wheels. I refuse to ride two wheels anymore. I'm getting older, I feel exposed, and it feels dangerous to me. I'm not going to go if it's two wheels. So I bought the CanAm Spyder. The first time we rode one, she was totally enamored with it. She loved the performance, she loved the sound, the smoothness, all of that stuff. So for her, it was an easy sale. For me, it wasn't. It was a little more challenging for me. So the first thing we had to figure out was, can Coach Vic get on and off of it? And by what I mean by that is that, can I get her on and off of it? Because all of the machines, the Harley and the Spyder alike, between the width of them and the height of them, she just can't get herself up on it. So I have to pick her up and put her on the motorcycle. Well, the very first time we did it on the Spyder, it was actually a very smooth transition. It felt like I was putting her on a two-wheeled motorcycle without worrying about it falling over. So that was a huge plus for the Spyder. The narrow rear end was just magnificent. We later tried at a Harley dealership on the Tri-Glide, and the wheelchair was constantly banging into the rear fender. Now, we covered their rear fender with towels so we wouldn't damage the new Tri-Glides that they had. But what we discovered was that we would beat the living crap out of any Tri-Glide that we had, and it was really hard for me to get her on that motorcycle. It was very hard. The other thing that we also noticed about the Tri-Glide, the storage was lacking compared to the Spyder. I was going to have to do more. I was going to definitely have to get a trailer, which I was going to have to do that anyway. But what about when I went solo? Was it going to be enough? It was going to be enough for me, but the Spyder offered more in terms of that. So immediately the Spyder jumped out at me as a superior for getting Vicky on and off the machine, and for being able to have the creature comforts to carry things. So that was more, you know, Coach Bob specific. But then we start getting down to brass tacks. So let's talk about 2 wheels versus 3. The very first thing I noticed about the Spyder was this: it handled exceptionally well. It turned exceptionally well. Its turn radius was good. The planted feeling of the front end was a big deal to me. That's the thing that I hated about trikes. They never feel planted in the front end to me. I always feel like even when I'm turning, the tire is sliding, I'm pushing it, and it's always a problem. It's scary to me. I don't like it at all. It's one of those things. Can I ride it? Sure I can. But is it a well thought out design? And the answer is absolutely no. It's an afterthought. It's like putting training wheels on a bicycle. You're putting the 2 wheels on the back because obviously if you do it on the front, you're going to have to redesign the entire suspension around that. And no manufacturer is willing to, they're just not willing to do it, and I understand why. That makes perfect sense. But the Spyder had an advantage because they started out that way. They started out with a front end that had an independent suspension on the front end, and it works really, really well. The one thing that you will notice is this. It's called surface patch. Now when I say surface patch, I don't mean you're patching your tire. It's the amount of rubber that's actually touching the road. And that affects when you turn and when you stop. Obviously, if you're driving down the road and you have only a small surface that's on the concrete, it's going to move and slide more. It's just going to. It's just simple science. So let's go to my driveway and I'll show you a few pictures. All right, so when we're talking about a surface patch, we're talking about, I get this question a lot, what do you mean surface patch? We're talking about the amount of tire that is on the road. So what we're going to do is just going to take a piece of tape and we're going to run it around this tire as far back as we can get it where it's touching. We want the part that's actually touching the road. All right, let's move the Spyder and see what we have. So this is the amount of rubber that is actually on the ground when you were riding down the road. That's it. Those ants won't be there, not while you're riding. Versus what I'm going to show you on my Tiger, we'll use this for an example for surface patch on the front tire. All right, so I have the bike vertical on the center stand because on the Tri-Glide, the bike is not going to be leaning. So there's a lot of the tire that you don't get to use. You're going to be shocked at how little is on the freaking ground. And this is what's turning the front of that heavy machine. Now the tire is going to be designed differently. It's going to have a little more surface patch than this tire probably, but you get the point. So you can see there's a dramatic difference with the amount of surface patch that is on the ground. The amount of tire that is actually stopping you and turning you. And in the Harley, this is being pushed. So when you turn, the tires on the front of a motorcycle were designed to tilt. And that's how a lot of your surface is designed. The radius of the tire changes. So this is, to me, it's just not adequate. And when I ride it, I feel it. And if you're not a performance rider, you may not, but I feel it. But you can see, big patch there, big patch there. Pretty much common sense, huh? Also, having a designed, well thought out, independent front suspension as just opposed to a set of forks. It's pretty dramatic. Forks are awesome on two-wheelers. That's what they were designed to be on. But trikes, not so much. They work, but not great. All right, well, as they say, a picture paints 1,000 words. So it really isn't hard to understand why the Spyder would handle better than the Harley. It's just a simple design thing, that's all. It's an expensive design thing, though, when you go to reinvent a motorcycle. Not to mention, you know, those front forks on that Harley were designed for one wheel up front, and it was designed for one wheel in the back. All they do is stiffen that front end up to support more weight. But the other thing, other than the handling, and this is one thing the Spyder excels in unbelievably, even over two-wheeled motorcycles, and that is stopping. This thing stops. And when I say it stops, it stops. It impresses me every time I need to stop. There again, the majority of your stopping power is on the front of the machine, and there's 2 big wheels up there with 2 big old tires on them and 2 giant Brembo disc brakes up there. So you got a lot of stopping power up front. All right, so we've talked about handling, we've talked about stopping, and we talked about just the general idea. We're going to talk about one more that is a definite Spyder win, and then we'll talk about one that is, you know, probably a toss-up, and then the other is a Harley win. The other thing is price. Price was an issue when we were looking. It's always an issue, isn't it? You know, you have an economy and you're dealing with the ups and downs, and it doesn't matter whether we're talking tariffs or local taxes or dealers or whatever. Money is always an issue. It just is. You know, you don't want to spend $12,000 more than you have to. So I went on Cycle Trader earlier today just to see where we are. You know, there were there were quite a few Sea to Skies and F3 Limiteds for sale. You know, the Sea to Skies were $29,000, and the F3 Limiteds, their little special edition one, I saw as low as $24,900. That is pretty darn, that's pretty skinny. I'm gonna tell you, it sounds expensive till you look at the Harleys, and they were $37,900, the cheapest ones I found that were new. The other thing is the Harley thing, they end up, you think the dealerships are bad. It seems like the Harley dealerships, and I'm not just hating on Harley here. Don't think that I am. I know people are like, well, you know, you're a BRP ambassador, and so therefore you just hate Harley. No, I don't. I love Harley, as a matter of fact. I rode a Harley for longer than any motorcycle I've ever ridden in my life. As I grew older, my taste became more discriminating in some ways. I'm not saying I'll never have another Harley. I'd love to have just a cruiser like a Fat Boy or something. I'd love to have something like that, just to go out and ride, you know, go to a bike night here and there and have a pizza with my friends. That they all ride Harleys, and so, you know, there's that. But the price was definitely a big win for the Spyder. So if a budget is part of your major issue, then, you know, the Spyder's going to be. All right, well, my camera's got all jacked up. This is the second time I've done this video today, and I don't know what's going on with these cameras, man. Maybe the heat outside's doing something to them, but man, I've lost so much footage. It's getting a little frustrating. I'm getting ready to smash all my GoPros with a hammer. Yeah, this has gotten pretty bad. All right, I believe I was talking about price when the camera just magically evaporated and took all of my footage that I've been filming for the last 25 minutes. So let's continue. So we're talking about the price. So if price is an issue, then the Spyder's definitely going to be more in your wheelhouse. All right. So let's talk about the neutral things, the things that are more up in the air. So the neutral things would be this. Do you like the sound? Do you like the sound of a Harley? You know, the Harley is magical. The potato, the pippity pop. There's just something wonderful about all of it. And so I understand that if you want that sound, that's what you need to do. For me, what happened is I got older, I developed tinnitus, and so the sound of motorcycles over touring miles, just in town, not a problem. But if I'm doing miles, if I'm going to do, you know, 200-300 miles minimal, then my ears are going to be ringing unless I'm going slow speeds. Like an adventure motorcycle, when I ride it, speeds are normally down lower, so I may ride for hours and not have problems. But even if I get my Tiger on the highway for an hour or two, even with earplugs in, it can get a little unbearable. The Harley, even with earplugs in, again, it does it to me. So that became an issue for me. The big complaint most people have about the Spyder is that the tire noise. That's because everything's so quiet. You actually hear the tires going, you know. I like that. I do like the quiet. The older I get, the more I like it. So if you're looking for the pippity pop potato, you're definitely in the wrong neighborhood when it comes to motorcycles. If you're looking at the Spyder, it just is not going to be able to do that. But if you're looking for quiet, if you're looking for refinement, you are definitely looking for the Spyder. So that's one that's up in the air, is you know, the sound. All right. Another thing that's up in the air is what you like, what it looks like. You know, personally, when I was a boy, I bought chopper cards. You know, that was the cards that had all the pictures of chopper motorcycles on it. So to me, a trike, this was way before Harley was making a Tri-Glide or CanAm was making a Spyder. So trikes were custom made. They had big Springer front ends and two big old fat tires in the back, and they were cool. And so that's how I see trikes in my mind. Although I love my Spyder and I love the look of it, I also understand. See this turn right here? Watch this. That is just wonderful. I'll tell you, that right there on a traditional trike, I don't think I'd have made it. And if I did make it, it would have been ugly. This thing is unbelievable. Anyway, back on the look. So if you're looking for a traditional standard fork, you know, single front end, then the Spyder's definitely not going to do it for you. The Spyder, it grew on me. The more I look at it, the more I like it. And this particular body style, I like a lot. Coach Vic, you know, she likes the older style, honestly. She likes the armrest for the older one and all that stuff. Me, I prefer this platform, especially the way it stops. This thing just stops unbelievably. But there you go. So the CanAm Spyder, as far as looks and as far as sound, you're going to have to make that decision on your own. That's a toss-up. So let's talk about the one thing that Harley wins on, and that, my friends, is fit and finish. Nothing has the fit and finish of a Harley. I mean, nothing. They are unbelievably beautiful. The paint is solid as a rock. The metal is big, heavy American iron. It's really nice stuff. And because it's set up to be a customizing platform, the overall thing is, it's easy to take things apart. It's easy to get things on and off of it. You know, you start taking things apart on this, you're going to have a problem. You're going to be out there a while because you've got a lot of parts. You may have to take off 5 pieces of plastic to get to a light bulb. You know, it's just the way it is, and that's not going to be that way on the Tri-Glide. But the fit and finish, the every gap, the paint quality, the chrome quality, I would say the CanAm is more in line with the big four, which is Honda, Kawasaki, Suzuki, and Yamaha, than Harley. I mean, you look at the Japanese cruisers of the big four, they're really nice. But you put them beside a Harley, man, there's just no comparison. So the fit and finish, it's second to none. And you pay for that. You pay a lot for that. But if that's what you want, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. So let's talk about the elephant in the room. And this is the one that, you know, most people really, when I have conversations with folks, this one invariably comes up. You know, when you look at surveys for customer satisfaction when it comes to dealer network and treatment of the dealer or overall dependability, let's just be honest, man, the CanAm Spyder is not in your top 1 or top 2. I don't, you know, it's just the way it is. Now, that said, mine have always been extremely, extremely dependable. I've ridden across this continent twice, you know, actually 4 times if you count the out and back. But I have done Atlantic to Pacific and back. I've done Key West to Maine, mile marker 0 to mile marker 1. It was amazing trips. The only time the Spyder even came close to letting me down, I was coming back from the Hot Springs Spyder rally, and I got stuck on a bridge in a traffic jam, and I sat there for like an hour, and the temperature was 100 degrees, and I was dying out there, and I was taking gloves off and helmets off because I was sitting there. It was ridiculous. I may have bumped the kill switch. I don't know that I did, but I've never been able to really come to grips or terms with exactly what happened that day. Was it just that the Spyder got so hot that it cut off, or did I do something stupid? So at the moment I thought that it had just cut off, but the more I look back at it, I'm like, man, as much movement and leaning up against stuff and frustration, I could have bumped something pretty easily, because when I cranked it up, it cranked right up and I rode right out. The kill switch now is a lot different on the new Spyders. They're rockers. They're spring loaded, so you can't just turn it off and it be hit. On mine, if you turn the kill switch off, if you bump it, it's off until you turn it back on. But when you look at this, you can see that the kill switch is also the start switch, so you can't, there's no way you can have it, you know, there's no way you can just have it in kill position. When you press the starter button, you've disengaged the kill switch, which is a great idea, and I think all motorcycles are doing that now. Are the Harleys dependable? Well, I rode a Harley, I rode one particular Harley for 18 years. I put a ton of miles on that thing. Did it ever leave me stranded? No, it broke down a couple of times, but I was always able to kind of pull the toolkit out on the side of the road and get it running again. I'm no mechanic, but I knew enough about little things. Back then, of course, things were carbureted, so there were a lot of little things that could go wrong. But normally, you were looking for, you know, gas, air, electric. You know, if you have those three things, you got your magic. And so you would narrow it down to one of those three, and you would attack that little area. That was it. So I can say that with both brands, I've gotten great service. I've gotten a lot of miles on, you know, between this Spyder and the other Spyders that I've driven. And I've driven, this is my third Spyder I've driven, you know, on a regular basis, and that's due to me being a BRP ambassador. They allow me to ride their machines, and I am so grateful for that, because it really does allow me to run them through the paces and see what I can find and share my findings with you, which is very, very important, and they know that, and they've given me just absolutely total freedom to say anything I want to say. Like, as long as you're not just bashing us just to be a jerk, you know, you can say anything bad about it that you find. That's how they grow, and that's how things develop. I also rode a Ryker for 6 months. It was great. So I've got a lot of experience on the Spyder, and have probably put in 90,000 miles on the Spyder. I know there are a lot of people who have done more than that. I'm sure that Jody from Purple on 3 has done way more than that, man. She puts in some big old miles, man. She's awesome. Her and Tommy G. In fact, make sure you subscribe to their channel. They're amazing folks. So there you have it. We've got looks, we've got fit and finish, we've got dependability, we've got sound, we've got all of that. We've got the prices. The Spyder is a pretty darn hard product to beat if you're in the market for a three-wheeled motorcycle. All right. Well, there you have it, another one in the books. I want you to do me a favor. You go out, buy the motorcycle of your dreams, eat right, take care of yourself, and remember, if you're not having fun, you are definitely doing it wrong. Now, you go seize the day, and I'll see you on the road real soon.